So there is this ongoing debate that will probably never end about whether or not supplements are actually beneficial to human beings, or do they just make really expensive urine? I know that sounds kind of gross, but let's face it, that's what a lot of people think. Well, I am of the belief that supplementation is absolutely necessary for anyone who wants to perform at a higher level. Unless you are getting just absolutely perfectly clean water, you're breathing perfectly clean air, and you're only eating organic and in quantities high enough to give you the vitamins and minerals you need of organic nutrients, then most likely, if you want to perform at a higher level, both physically, cognitively, and you're really focused on health span, you're probably going to need some supplementation. Well, I learned this from my dear friend, Dr. Gus Vickery. So here's the deal. Gus is a family physician of over 30 years experience. And one of the things that he's always demanded of his patients is that they take good blood work. And what he does is he doesn't just give you a report that says the kind of the top line, where do you fit within the general public? He goes at a deeper level to find out at the cellular level, where are the deficiencies in your blood work? And here's what he found after years and years and thousands of patients. He found that there are 80% of us that all have by and large, the same deficiencies no matter what. So what he did is he started to set out to figure out how he could create the smallest bottle cap. And what I mean by that is the smallest number of individual supplements you could take possible to give you a baseline enhancement for your overall health that would protect you from the toxic environment that we all find ourselves in this modern habitat. And that is what led to the development of the foundational stack from Authentic Health, which you can find at shopauthentic.health.com, today's sponsor. So here's the deal. What Gus has developed is your essential nutrients, which is exactly what it sounds like. It is going to give you those essential nutrients that you're probably not getting from your food, because let's face it, you're probably not eating all organic. And even if you are, you're probably not eating in a quantity great enough to give you the nutritional density that you actually need. Then there's the essential fats. We always hear that we need omega-3s and all these good fats. Well, what Dr. Gus did was he developed a special formulation of essential fats to make sure you get the fats that you need for sustained and better health. And then finally, for that protein synthesis that we all need to build lean body mass and increase our bone density, one of the most critical aspects of longevity, he has developed essential amino acids in his own formulation. Look, this is what Dr. Gus is actually prescribing to his patients and has been for years and has had remarkable results in doing so. So in the debate of supplement or not to supplement, I'm a big believer in supplementation. I don't believe in going out there and just grabbing everything and looking at the wall of supplements and trying to pick and choose and piece it together. I trust physician formulated supplementation. That's what I take. The foundational stack is a part of my everyday protocol, along with creatine and some collagen. These are two things that I will always have in my dietary protocol. So check out shopauthentic.health.com and get your foundational stack right now. And if you will use promo code Jason, you're going to get a discount. So check it out right now, shopauthentic.health.com. Now, enjoy the show. Isabelle Daikeler, welcome to the show. How are you?
I'm so good. Thank you. How are you?
I am doing so well. You know what? I feel like it's funny, isn't it, how quick you can get to know someone? Because I feel like I know you pretty well just from our off recording conversation we've had as a lead up and a few emails leading up to this conversation. So I think this is going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, I agree with that. You made me feel really comfortable. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Well, it's my pleasure. And so here's what I want to do. Okay, I'm just gonna get this out. We're gonna spend like 30 seconds letting people know how cool this is for me. I'm excited to have you here because you're a part of an ecosystem that has meant the world to me. Isabel, this audience knows the closest thing I have to a hobby is my health and wellness. It's one of the reasons why I
Mm.
do this show. It's why I bring people like you on. I'm always trying to live up to the motto of my show, which is improve always and always. And a big component of that is my health, my wellness. Some of the things we're going to talk about today is emotional health, lowering anxiety, a lot of that. And a big part of that journey started way back with a company that you've been involved with for years, which is Body, formerly Beachbody, the creators at P90X, Shakeology, all these great products. And so I just have to say, real quick, if nothing else, I am a huge fan of the company that you've been a part of for years, you and your husband Carl, and it has so much to do with my health and wellness and my journey to where, I mean, God, that started, I guess it's going to like 15 years ago. So
Wow.
with that, so I just got to tell you from that standpoint, I know you give Carl so much of the credit and bless you for, I'm the same way. If I,
He deserves it. He deserves it.
but I'm telling you now, look, I'm old fashioned too. And I believe it. If Carl were here, he would say the same thing I would say about my wife, Jimlyn. Behind every good man is an unbelievable woman. We're better when I've done a whole show on men are better when they have really good, strong, supportive wives. So I think in that regard, you're pretty awesome.
Thank you so much. I need to watch that show.
Well, it's my pleasure. All right. So now that I've gotten my fanboy message out of the way,
Thank
let's
you, thank you.
let's talk about what you're working on now. So you take it. Tell us about what you're up to and what this conversation is going to be about today. Because I think I'm going to be learning a lot and I'm probably going to have a lot of questions, again, just to satisfy my own curiosity and how I can implement some of these practices into my own life. And hopefully we'll share some things with this audience that they can take away and do the same thing. So tell me what you're working on right now.
Well, what I'm working on right now became. I didn't set my goals and decided to start something. It kind of just led me there. And it's kind of how my whole life has been. I've always admired people that knew what they wanted to do and went at it and got there. And my husband is a perfect picture of that. And I think that's amazing. I'm anything but that. So my life kind of led me toward different jobs throughout my life. It was never me deciding. It was always me being pulled somewhere and investigating. And then before I know it, I started doing that. So where I'm at now with this place called Authenticity Stress Less is a sound and light and emotional, uh, restful place and a healing place. And it started with, so just like you, fitness was always a huge part of my life. I loved working out. I love working out. When I'm not well, I'm sure you can relate to that. When I'm well and I can't work out, it pisses me off. I
Mhm.
just love it. I can't wait to step in the gym. It's like I salivate, and I love deciding what I'm going to do spontaneously, in the moment, depending on how I'm feeling. So I was a personal trainer, track and field assistant coach. I did nutrition. And of course, you have to deal with the mental and emotional well being of an athlete or even an individual that's a weekend athlete. You have to deal with the emotional state of the person that you're working with. I worked with a lot of people that had to be ready for film where their schedule is very tight. And I had to learn if I have 2, 3 months to get them in a certain shape, I really had to get my ducks in a row to make sure that we were all on the same page. So I learned a lot from that interaction and I learned a lot about my body. And at some point, I started feeling exhausted and unwell. And it was very vague, aches, but exhaustion was the main thing. And it grew and grew. And I kept going from doctor to doctor to doctor, and nobody could really help me. And I was getting depressed and I was broke. I couldn't work. It ended up at some point where I couldn't even open the door of my place and go up one step to go in. I would collapse. I was exhausted and I was anxious. And the doctors could only tell me I'm depressed. And I remember thinking, yes, I'm depressed. I can't work. Nobody knows what the heck is going on with me. I have to borrow money. I can't pay my rent. Like, it was intense, and I couldn't get answers anywhere. And life guided me through Koreatown, where I discover adaptogen mushrooms and herbs. These ladies just didn't ask me barely any money, and they just offered their help. Some of them barely spoke English, but they taught me how to cook these herbs, and that they check your eyes and your tongue and your wrist, and they take your pulse, different pulses. And I didn't know anything at the time. I just was letting them manipulate me. And then they gave me all these bags, told me how to cook them. And I went to my place. My place used to stink. And I had a huge black mark on my ceiling from cooking all these things. And I didn't even know what they were, but somehow I trusted it. And I had, it was just sort of, you're desperate, you'll try anything. And of course, within 3, 4 months, I started feeling better. Now, I didn't know why. I didn't know what I had, and I didn't know why it was helping me, but I was feeling better. So I went back, and it lasted about a year. And then I started understanding what I was dealing with. Eh, We call now adaptogen mushrooms and herbs, and even food, plants. And I started researching that, and that was a big part of my life. And of course, I look back now, and I think they would call it chronic fatigue syndrome, something like that. But again, now that I do what I do, I also think that a lot of it was emotional. I was in a fear state. I was running from, not walking toward. I was stressed and I felt inept. I felt inept. And that's a theme that remained for a very long time in my life. And even to this day, there's tendrils of it where I feel inept at dealing with life. So it was huge back in those days. And and so the mushrooms and these concoctions became part of my life. And it became, when I went back to training, it became part of what I did. I brought these recipes, these shakes,
Mhm.
with my clientele, whomever was available and open to it, and I saw it work. And it didn't matter if it was an athlete or a housewife, whether you were 25 or 55, it worked. It made people feel better. And, it didn't taste good. I had nothing fancy to make it taste good. But if you could just down it to get
Mhm.
the effect, people felt the effect. So that was on top of my training. That acquainted me with a whole other aspect of life, of health. And I started realizing a little bit what was going on with me. I started sensing a shift of my state, but I couldn't quite. Oh, that's my pause. Like, take a breath and chill. So,
I love that. That's an I've had that before too. Is it one of your apps that you have on your phone?
yeah,
Which one is
it
it? Because
just
I used to do
I
one.
forgot I forgot the name. It
Yeah,
just has that little
yeah.
bell.
Which
It
is
just reminds me.
and I wanna come back to the importance of what you just did, was breathing and calming. So, keep going with the adaptogens, the mushrooms. I wanna hear this, but I think that if you if you can remember to remind me, or I'll do the same, I
Yes.
think that's important. So, that was probably a really good little interrupter there, but please continue.
Yeah, yeah. Um, so that became part of my arsenals. And then cut back to a few years later, now I have a car crash and I can't walk for a few years. I go from rehabilitation to rehabilitation. And now they help me, but only so much, only so far. And they tell me, you probably will have a limp for the rest of your life, which is a big no no. There's no way, because my identity was in my athletic performance. That's who I was, strong, right? And so then I took courses. Paul Check, you probably know of him, is an amazing coach. Stuart McGill, amazing coach. So I learned about the body even more, and from a place of deep vulnerability. So again, I watched my emotional state participate with my physical well being, but also I learned. So that event really acquainted me with fear in a very deep way. And then cut back to years and years later. Now I'm married, I have a son, and I gave birth. I should say I gave birth, I have a son. And through the birth process, I ended up not really being able to walk and function for a good decade. Which, notice the theme, right? Walking and moving is the thing that I can't do.
Wow.
Um, so 10 years, and in that 10 years, and Jason, I don't know how far you wanna go with that, but in that 10 years, this is where a huge awakening happened to me. This is where I connected to, I'll call it my inner wisdom. So this aspect of oneself that could seem foreign, and that it's like that little voice of knowing that so often you dismiss and don't listen to. It's that energy. Sometimes a situation freaks your mind out, but somehow you know you're okay. It's that space. It I didn't work for it. It came at me once again, and that 10 years was a deep process of of connecting with who I am. So basically, I didn't realize that not a part of me, but it was as if I created an armor on the outside, and all these events, and especially that decade, turned me inside out. So forced me to realize, oh, it's just an armor. I'm really scared. I'm really scared. I'm really vulnerable. I'm really sad. And I haven't really focused on that. So that 10 years was that education. Very humbling, humility like crazy. And I connected to this, what we can call guides, not outside guides, not speaking to people, but this deep energy that is within us all. And that became my partner. And, I spent hours and hours in the basement doing rehabilitation moves and energetic work with that partner, that new partner, and it was very private. Now, when I went back out, when I got a little bit better, um, I tried to go back to body work. I forgot to mention body work was part of what I was doing as well. I try to go back, which is work with my elbow, my forearm, my hands, and it starts in the belly, and I can work on the whole body. I thought, well, I can't really walk and do training, and I have this new boy. My commitment is to my son now, but I can do body work. I tried to go in there and do my work, and my hands went up and started doing healing work, energy work. I could feel the energy like water, as if I was dipping my hands in water, which freaked me out because I was the kind of person back in the days where if I got a massage and somebody said, "Let me just start with a little bit of Reiki," I was like, "No, no, I don't want any Reiki."
Right.
Just want a massage, right? It would
Yeah.
annoy me. It
Yeah.
was so humbling once again, and I could not. I mean, I could force my way through, but my hands really wanted to do energy work. And so, all this to say, what I do now is energy work, is conversation with people, and light and sound work with something called the harmonic egg. And the aspect of talking with people, um, unbeknownst to me, was built upon through all my experiences throughout my life with individual and with myself. So the most important part when people come to my center is sitting down and knowing that you're safe feeling, especially men, that you're safe feeling, and the goal is to feel without connecting your emotions to your thought processes. It's to be able to just feel and know that it's safe to feel. There's no judgment. We're not trying to figure it out, and we're not trying to find solutions. We're just feeling and observing where. So, what I've learned is really to honor my bodies. My body, I don't call it mind body connection because what I've learned for me, and I can only speak from my experience, um, it's the I call it the divine is sown within every cell of your body. The body is the divine. The body is part of that little voice. It's not just that little feeling, it's a feeling from head to toe. And we've disconnected ourselves from it. And and men and business have disconnected themselves from it, especially I've noticed. Um, but women, we and men too, but in general, I'm noticing a pattern of the voices can more readily connect itself to the feelings, and men are in general again are more prone to disconnecting from the feelings. So it's about honoring your body, allowing yourself to feel, and noticing that when you allow yourself to feel something without analyzing it, criticizing it, disconnecting from it, or embracing it to an ex extent, it passes faster.
Mhm.
And in its passing, it brings you wisdom, meaning you get answers that you didn't even know you needed.
Right.
And it gives you a big picture without efforting. It just happens because it's part of the wisdom of how you're designed. Does that make sense?
100%. In fact, you've just there's so much that we're gonna that to unpack here.
Yeah, ask me questions.
Yeah. So, first of all, a lot of what you're saying, I think it lines up. So, have you ever studied any of Carl Jung's work, Jungian psychology or anything in
I
the
didn't
shadow
study,
self?
but I'm aware of several
Sure.
aspects of it.
Sure. So, a lot of what I'm thinking about here is the shadow self, which a lot of times
Yes.
is what we keep suppressed, right? We're scared of the shadow. The shadow is the one that tells us, no, you can't do that. And then I think that I'm just going to kind of scatter shoot here, and then I'm going to land the plane on some very specific, I think, applicable questions for this audience, because you're right about men and women alike. But a lot of us, I once heard an author, a lady named Beth Moore, said so many people, she was talking about people that go to church. She's like, so many people go to church in the witness protection program. You know, it's not the real them that's showing up. It's the mask. It's the armor. It's the facade that we're putting on that we want the world to see because we're too afraid to let that inner person out and to deal with that inner. So we go, and I think a lot of us live our lives in the witness protection program. And that's one of the things that, and everything you said there lines up with what I really wanted to dig into first that you mentioned is the authenticity part of it. Because Isabel, I believe it is no, I don't think I'm overstating when I say for most people, yours truly included, the single bravest yet scariest thing, you talked a lot about fear, that people can do is be their authentic
Yeah.
self. Or even if it's not even, and before you can even be, it's having to face that authentic self and truly accept that, okay, this is who I am. I've always thought I was this person, and because we project the person we think we're supposed to be, people react to that and then they reinforce that, and they're reinforcing this facade that this character that a lot of us have
Yeah.
created, you know, as opposed to, and then when that happens for so long, like when you're like me, I started really digging into this whenever I was like 40 years old.
Hmm.
And that's a long time to live as a sort of you. Sort of it's you, but it's
Yeah.
not really
Yeah.
the real you, right? And then you talked about fear. Okay, so I am someone, and this may turn into a personal coaching session. And if you're down with it,
All
feel free
good.
feel free to dissect me. So I learned from whenever I started meditating, I think it was one of Sam Harris's programs that I first started doing, kind of what you talked about in the sitting in the emotion you feel. Like I have operated from fear for a lot of my life. A lot of the decisions I've made in my
Mm.
career and other things, it was I look back and it was fear based. And one of the things that happens to me that I think you said is very important is I've learned now when I have a visceral emotion, I get a phone call and somebody pisses me off. I get a phone call or I see something come into my email that my stomach just clenches with fear and anxiety, is to just stop and ask the question, why? Why am
Mm.
I feeling this? What does it mean? And generally, you'll figure out that, well, it's just it's fear-based. For me, a lot of it is just fear-based. Fear of my reputation, fear of my pride, fear that it's a bill I'm not gonna be able to pay, fear that I'm gonna appear a failure, fear
Yeah.
that I'm not gonna achieve something I want, and then and once you can, and tell me, correct me if I'm wrong here, once you sit with it for a minute, then a lot of times you realize how completely unfounded the fear is. Because then once you own it, you look at it, you stare it in the face and you go, wait a minute. What I'm thinking is a dragon that has just lurked into my room is really nothing. It's a gnat, and I swat it
Mhm.
away and move on. But I think a lot of people, they feel, and I know I do, I still fall victim to this. We build up anxieties because we just, instead of looking the dragon in the face, putting it in its proper context, we just let it sit in our head. And then another dragon comes along, and another and another. And before long, we're just trapped in this anxiety.
Yeah.
So all that babbling, I'll
It's
stop.
good babbling. It's good babbling.
Okay. I just, I want you to land a little bit on and unpack the idea of authenticity, because it is so, to me, that's where this all begins, because
Yeah.
facing a lot of these things, I'm like you, performance based. You're talking about how your identity was being able healthy and all this. There's so many times in my life, Isabel, that I have made a decision that was probably less than the best decision because I'm a performer. I have to appear that I've got it all together. I've got to appear that I'm healthy. I can't let anybody know that I'm really kind of struggling. So let's talk a little bit about authenticity and define what that means and how people can start to reach into that, based on some of the practices that you're executing.
Yeah, it's this is all good stuff, and we could go on and on, right? Because there's so many ways to get there. And I think when you talk about authenticity, I wrote that on a business card where I knew I had no business having business card, meaning I was like, I know I'm not going to give one of those cards to anybody. But I just had the word authenticity, which is so hip right now. It's everywhere. But I hadn't really heard it back, and that was over decades ago, like 15 years. And I just loved it. And I was not really in touch with why. Now I realize authenticity, like you said, it's connected to your shadow. But there's a tendency also to go straight to, you know, seminar of how to be, what to do, how to get there, how to be, but it really is just a sense of beingness, and it's anything but glamorous, and it's anything but, the spiritual perfection that we have in our minds now often. It really is about sitting with a discomfort. So when you said you ask why, that is definitely a way to get there. The way Because again, the way I go about it, like I explained, because that's just how I've lived it, that's how I got to this practice, is that often if I allow people to ask why, it brings them right back to their minds. They're back to that again. Because if you go into why, you it's a left brain question.
You
You
try to
get back into figuring out,
right,
yeah,
okay,
and fixing, and then you can perhaps fall into the illusion of having dealt with it. But
fair.
what you were feeling was not based on a left brain statement. It was based on deep emotional history, and that's what needs to be unpacked. And to be authentic is to have the availability, the openness, the curiosity, and the courage to sit, like I said, to sit with that emotion. Now, of course, if you're on a call, you don't have time for that, but you can take that breath
Mhm.
and you can choose to react or you can choose to respond. Taking that breath will help you respond. But if you are at my center or with anybody else or with yourself, again, it's about forgiving yourself, allowing yourself a surrendered place of feeling. You don't even have to call it meditation because at least meditation in my heart is more Doesn't have to be, but is more a state of observance, almost like allowing yourself to be over here and just sort of watching your thoughts. It's the mainstream understanding of meditation, as opposed to when people come to me, they are literally in the midst of physical pain or emotional, spiritual pain. And I do not claim to be able to fix people, but I've gotten good at sitting with them, knowing that you can just allow that, let it unpack it. Don't look good. Don't look put together. Um, you have not figured it out because it's sitting inside of you. So again, it's about observing perhaps where you're feeling that emotion. Is it in your throat? Is it in your sternum? Some people it's in their backs. Some people it's in their shoulder. So, like I said, for me, I constantly created situations where I couldn't walk because moving through life was scary. And that's a deep, old emotion. So, yes, you can go to psychoanalysis, which could be so useful, but I'm just complimentary, where I'm asking you to trust and to come and to feel. Again, just feeling the sensation and the wisdom of the body. If you say not now to the thoughts associated to the aches and pains that you're feeling, the body is wise and it will process it in a way that you would never have processed it. The body is nothing. It is nothing like your mind, like your brain, and it will move through. And if you can get curious, so you have the emotions, and if you can get curious where it's moving, is it expanding, shrinking, and allow that to become your focus of curiosity as you are feeling, it will pass much quickly. And every time a thought comes, oh, well, if he just hadn't, and if I just had, or if I had said or not said, whatever babble you can hear, if you can just say, not now, not now. So I'm there to say not now and
Mm.
help you not be scared of the intensity of your emotions. It can be quite intense if you're in a pattern of not allowing, of resisting. So it's about honoring the body as your best friend. That's it. It's very simple. You don't have to be smart to get it. You just have to have the courage to allow it and to surrender. And once that passes, as I mentioned, you will you will get information that has nothing to do with your brain. You will get ahs, and you will fall into a sense of deep calmness because you allow. It's like shaking a bubbly water,
Mhm.
shaking, and it can't come out. This is you, right? It's all the stuff you didn't allow, and it's intense pressure. So if you are in a state now of allowing, it's going to be intense and you may not be used to it. And allowing that to happen, so much space is now available. And I call it God, but you can call it consciousness,
Mhm.
whatever you're comfortable with. God can now come in and fill you with answers, or fill you with a sense of safety,
Mhm.
that you're okay, it's okay. And then what happens is I have a harmonic egg, which is this big egg shape uh, container, but it's huge. There's a comfortable seat that goes to zero gravity inside, and it's literally light and sound. It's sound that are created to again help induce your parasympathetic nervous system to get it online. So the fight or flight, you fighting imaginary monsters,
Mhm.
it puts you in a deep state of meditation, even if you've never meditated. And the light is is a co-partner. Light affects us all the time. You go outside, it's gray and rainy, it will affect you. You go outside, it's sirens and cars and honking, it will affect you. You go outside, it's a blue sky, you hear the birds in the ocean, it will affect you. We are constantly resonating with our environment. So it's a condensed version of a deeply soothing environment that will support your ability, just like meditation, to get back to that deep state of calm, of knowing. And your body now can start healing. Your body knows how to heal, does it all the time. But if you're busy like this, you're not like that, allowing the system to do what it knows how to do. Does that make sense?
100%. And you and I are on the same page with regard to making room to fill those God-shaped holes in our bodies. And you mentioned it earlier when you said the divine. I think we are divine at a cellular level. So I think so. I totally get what you're saying. Now let me ask you this: and maybe there's not a goal, maybe that's the wrong word, but is kind of like a mastery state of what we're talking about here to find a place of more peace and kind of just calm as opposed to the tension. And what I mean by that is, like you talk about, like, yes, it can be sensory overload. My youngest daughter, who lives in Manhattan, we go to Manhattan a lot. And so, yes, when you walk on the streets of New York, they say New York has an energy. Well, heck yes, it has an energy. It's got sirens and lights and honking and all the time. And then you put on top of that what my daughter was just complaining about this past week, the fact that it's usually not much sunlight. It's pretty dark, especially this time of
Yeah.
year whenever they're coming out of winter. There's just this. It really can be this emotional overload. If you can master some of these things that we're talking about by sitting in the emotion, allow your body to feel it and deal with it, and stop trying to analyze it away or rationalize it away. Is it ultimately trying to find a place of, I guess for lack of a better word, harmony, that becomes the norm versus what most of us do? And let's face it, we talked about meditation. A lot of people, they will meditate because that's their only time of peace and just in harmony, because the rest of their life is so chaotic and so anxious. So is that kind of what we're shooting for, or am I again just being kind of too alpha on this, trying to tie a goal to what should just be, stop, Jason, just let this happen, don't put any goals on it.
Well,
You
first of all, there's no thing as such. Like I love alpha. We had a short discussion before. I love the alpha state. I love what we associate with men, right? Goal oriented. It's very complementary to what I am. So I would never criticize that. Um, I appreciate it a great deal. Uh, but yes, I want to unpack the mastery, if you don't mind,
sure.
because I think I'm observing that new goal now of the spiritual mastery. And to me, that's another trap. You're
Mm,
now caught to another paradigm of what you're supposed to be and what you're not.
yeah,
And there you go again.
yeah,
And that's the place that I'd rather not land there, but
yeah.
we will, right? And I don't know, I wouldn't call it a goal because I think observing that chaos and resistance is part of, as of now, it's part of our world. It's part of our day-to-day experiences. So it's more making friends with it, and it's more being okay with not being a master. Like it took me a long time to allow myself to even be here talking on a podcast, because it was so easy for me to think it's been said in a million ways for thousands and thousands of years and better than I could ever say it, and more poetically and perfectly, right? That perfection by the great masters. It's nothing, we're unpacking things constantly, all of us, that the information is out there. But I think because we are all so different, we all resonate with different ways and different ways of hearing and doing. So for me, I would say being okay with being anything but a master, anything but perfect, anything but completely harmonious. And that's the challenge. That's what I don't want to have to live up to, and I don't want people that come to um, my center to have to live up to that at all. It's about being very much at peace. And then the trap is to think, well, if I'm okay with whatever I am, whatever mess I am, I'm not going to achieve anything. And that's another paradigm to shift because it's the opposite. The moments of non-chaotic emotions of alignment where your thoughts are quiet, your body is calm, your heart knows, bring great organization skills. And whatever gift you have, it will enhance. Whatever ability you have, it will enhance. It's as if you have a left arm, but you insist on doing everything with just your right arm. So I feel that this aspect of who we are, what I call the divine, that divine aspect, that best friend, is your left arm. It's another aspect of who we are, but we've dismissed it for a very long time. I think we're just now really getting back online and honoring that is a very beneficial friend to have because it's you. You know, quantum physics is showing us that now. We are mostly space. When you think about it, when you really think about it, if you are mostly space, what does that mean? You're
Mhm.
mostly energy. So when you dismiss energy, when you dismiss that space, you dismiss what you mostly are. And that's big. And so that's all we're doing. We're just reintegrating an aspect of ourselves that could be so beneficial on so many levels, but it doesn't mean you're supposed to be a master. It's not what it is. It's just saying you've got a left arm, so it'll be a lot easier to sculpt with both arms.
Mm.
So we're asking you to sculpt, integrating that aspect of yourself. And I think we all will go about it in different ways, but the even in the fitness world, my dear, like even fitness, I've noticed more and more. Um, we're pretending that it's about health a lot, but
Right.
really, it's about looking really hot and sexy. And
Right.
our outfits are showing it. Like we don't show up to our gym in our sweats and t-shirt. We have to have like the perfect, you know,
Right.
perfect sexy outfit, men and women, um, to go work out. But the working out is the pleasure of moving,
Mhm.
the sensation of what and the pleasure of being healthy and alive. This amazing ability to move the body in so many different ways, the enjoyment of health. And having lost my health for big chunks of time, oh my god, did I confronted that.
Yeah.
Now exercising for me is relishing well-being because whatever is physical about us also need to be honored, but here we are shoving it in the left side of our brain, and now it's about looking great and looking perfect.
Yeah.
Mastering being perfect. It's
Yep.
this perfection, this illusion, which brings you back down to what? Insecurity, fear, resentment, low self-worth, you know, all that. So you land, whenever you indulge in that, you land back in that which is not um, just well-being and contentment, um, and a sense of living well, which
Yeah.
cannot be accomplished by achieving. Achieving is fantastic, but in order to enjoy the achievement, it has to come from that place of of I'm okay.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
okay. And that will not make you lazy.
Right. No, I could not agree more. It's one of the things that one of the conclusions I have finally come to in my life, and my wife and I talk about this a lot, is this. is contentment. And one of the things that we find ourselves, I mean, she and I talk about this a lot. We we live a pretty modest life. We live, you know, below our means, not because we're trying to do some. I mean, I'm not to knock Dave Ramsey, but it's not because of some program to be the best, whatever. We just have found ourselves. We'll question. We're like, okay, let's say we wanted to go build a larger new house. Are we doing it because we really want or need that, or just because that's what we think we're supposed to do, as opposed to just going, but we're really content right where we are. I've come to a place in my life where contentment is, to me, that's the ultimate place to
Yeah.
land, where you just have this sense of peace and contentment. And another thing I want to touch on that you mentioned, health and wellness for me, I wish more people could get to where we are on this account, Isabel, where they really dialed into remove all of the what the matrix says we need to be doing as far as working out so that we'll look good and look good on Instagram and all this stuff, as opposed to just this celebration of health, this celebration of being able to operate at a functional and happy place where we can take these things like the endorphins and all these wonderful neurochemicals that can be dispelled throughout our body, and just and truly enjoy that. I mean, that's like, I'm like you mentioned when we first got on that you get pissed off when you can't go to the gym. I am the same way. You can ask my wife. I am not fun to be around if we're traveling or something and I can't just go train and exercise. And it's not because I think that one day I'm going to get fat or I'm not going to fit into my pants or whatever. No, it's because for me, it is such an emotional thing. It is such just it's an expression of gratitude. It's like working out
Yeah.
this. My workout is my way of physically working out my gratitude for how
Yeah.
lucky
Yeah.
and how wonderful it can feel. Now, one of the things I want to
Can
go,
I touch base on something? I just in
sure,
you what you just said, sorry
please.
to interrupt you,
Yeah.
is I'm not bashing having a bigger house, and I'm not
Oh,
bashing wanting to look good, right?
Norm. Yep,
This is
exactly.
all great, but to get back to your why, if that is the main why, that's when you're skipping a beat. You're
Yep,
skipping something that then takes away that peace and that ability to enjoy the big house, right?
100%.
So it's important to understand that there's deeper reasons for our behaviors. Again, going back to Young, right?
Yep.
And to sort of pay attention to that, and that will help you enjoy your huge house. And I love that. Like,
Yeah.
why not?
Right, 100%. Now I do have a question, and you may or may not have an answer for this, but how do you think consciousness, which that's always the big question, right, for a lot of people, and I think you and I probably align more on our understanding of consciousness than a lot of other folks do. Um, but how does consciousness and what it actually is play into what we're talking about here and tapping into that? Just does that make sense? Does the
Yeah.
question register? Okay.
No, no, I'm laughing because it's like not a small question.
No, no, I threw a big one out there. I have faith in you, Isabel. I wouldn't ask just
I'll
anybody.
tell you what consciousness is.
Bring it, bring it.
Um, okay, I'll bite. I'll go into that a little.
Okay.
Um, s I haven't unpacked that with anybody really. So here I go. I would need 3 hours to go wide and then come back to an hour or more succinct answer. But it goes back to, the fish not knowing that it's in water.
Mm, yep.
So that's what I think, again, very humbly right now. It feels like nothing exists if not consciousness.
Mhm.
That's what it feels like to me more and more. I don't know. We'll talk in 3 years. I might have a different story, but it
Right.
it, it feels that it is it. Every perception we have, every sense we have, every experience we have, we are in water. We are in consciousness. It is all. It is all. That's why I call it all that is, right? Consciousness is what is the air you breathe. It's this experience would not be. It's again the simplest way I can think of at this very moment is the fish in water
Mhm.
wondering what water is.
Right.
It really is quite perfect of an analogy. And
And real quick, for anyone who doesn't know what we're talking about, David Foster Wallace, he gave a
oh
commencement speech where he talks about the fish in the water. So just Google it. It will kind of blow your mind in the most
yeah,
simple of terms ever. So anyway, I just want the audience to know what we're
yes,
talking about there because it is a very profound and I've got infinite jest over here. You know, Isabel, I have the desire to read David Foster Wallace. And I went and bought Infinite Jest, which is just, I mean, that tearing into that one's going to be tough. That's like reading
yeah,
Ulysses again. But anyway, so
yeah.
please continue with the audience to know who we're talking about.
Yeah, and again, it's not like there hasn't been, amazing souls diving into that, um, and I think also, even though it's such a profound question, it really is, it goes back to know thyself, right? Um, and I think thyself, it's all connected to your question. I think thyself includes your body, and it includes, um, expressing and feeling, emoting and acting. But if you don't have a sense of who you are and what you are, you can get lost in all the other aspects. And they also are part of consciousness. So it goes back to the shadow self, understanding that that consciousness, that creative space, and compensate out of that, that nothing is not that. Therefore, the rejection of any of these, to bring it back to emotions, to any of these states, is rejecting yourself and rejecting any other human being who's going through that as well. So even though that question, it's infinite, we could go on and on debating and talking about it. I think whenever I get someone, here's the answer. Whenever I get someone who is in an anxious state with tons of questions, or even sarcasm, you know, trying to challenge, whenever I can help them get back to a state of feeling with no thoughts, appreciation, calmness, non-chaotic energy, I think they experience consciousness at its best. I think they
Mhm.
experience that water. And it's so much more powerful than discussing it. Not that it's not great, I love it. Um, but I but it may make someone feel, well, I can't figure it out. So, I'm not one of them who can figure that out. I'm not one of them who can meditate, and I can't go to Egypt and experience the incredible energy of the temples and the pyramids. And you see out there all the incredible things to do to experience a state of of of, of peaceful merging with consciousness,
Yeah.
right, with yourself.
Yeah.
And I think I'm trying to help people to the best of my ability. You don't have to travel to Egypt, and you don't have to be able to meditate for 2 hours and then tell everybody. You don't have to. You can just be with all the imperfections and all the shadows. You can just be with that. You can just allow it because it's there. It's there. It's created. It's part of who you are. It is part of consciousness.
Yeah.
It's not sure how well that is said as a sentence, but consciousness is okay with all of that. And you don't need any specific tools. You don't need to be perfect. You don't need to be a master. You don't need to have all the answers, but you can reside and allow all that. And in that surrendering, so much happens. And
Yeah.
that's all I'm trying to do with what I've learned and my own imperfections and the harmonic egg.
So I think you said something very important there, and you tell me if I get off track, I can take it. But one of the things you mentioned early in this conversation was as part of your healing journey, it was a healing from the inside out. And people listening to this that just heard that and they say, yeah, they can't go to the pyramids or they can't go stand under the Eiffel Tower. They can't go to these amazing places where not even just for the energy that can be developed, but just these beautiful, exotic, wonderful, stimulating places. If you start to focus on the inside, and this goes back to the idea of contentment that I have become much more keenly aware of in my own personal life. It's not to say that if you get to this place of, I don't want to say, and he call it Zen state or whatever, there's all kinds of labels out there, but you get to a place where you don't have to go to the place or do the thing or have the thing to get the exact same exhilaration and peace and joy and just kind of I think euphoric might be a little bit of a too big of a word here, but you have you once you start to find within you this quote unquote feeling or energy, however you want to label that, that all of a sudden, again, it doesn't mean that Isabelle Daikeler, if she were going to Paris and she saw the Eiffel Tower, she wouldn't be able to appreciate that and and admire the beauty of being in Paris. But what it does mean is Isabelle can have an identical sensation, feeling, calm, wonderfulness, just sitting and being in the presence of yourself. Am I kind of getting that? Where it's like we don't need, and this is where I love the metaphor of the matrix. I know it's been used to death, but it is when we're having conversations like this, it's so appropriate. It's where I don't have to have the matrix that has been created to find peace and joy and happiness. And I'll tell you, and it doesn't happen all the time for me, Isabel, but there are those times whenever I am sitting in that space where I'm trying to just open space for just being, and that's it. That is I just want to be. I'm not trying to be happy or sad. I'm just trying to just be and exist. And you'll find these moments where in that moment, I don't think I could be any more content anywhere else in the entire world, even if it's right here in my home office. And that to me is that's the money. That's the good stuff is whenever, because wherever you go, there
There
you
you
are,
are.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So if you can not master, I don't know, use that, but if you can get to that place, then to
If
me,
you
that,
enjoy, if you can get to enjoy.
yeah.
Yeah.
Am I getting it? Am I kind of
Of
putting these
course you are.
okay,
And yes, and so I would say, let me add to that. Funny enough, the more the more that is real for an individual, the more you may look boring to the outside world.
for
That's
sure,
something I've
for
noticed.
sure.
Um, because again, the need to go experience out there
Mhm,
is not pulling you as much. It
yep,
doesn't mean, as you said, it doesn't mean that you will go to France and won't enjoy.
right.
But this is where my yes and, if I may. Um, you know how you were speaking about that you also were well acquainted with fear.
Mhm.
Um, so if I've spent time, and I'm learning that, I'm learning that right now. If I spend time being friendly and acquainting myself with the sensation of fear, if you whenever you experience fear, if you were to in that moment, if you have it, if you it's a, the situation is available for that, but we experience fear so often, at some point the space will be there to do it, to do that exercise. If in that moment you experience fear and you allow it, as we discussed, you just allow it for what it is and let it guide you wherever it is, whether it will be suddenly your breath will expand. You'll take deep breath without trying to. Suddenly your diaphragm will open up, or tears may come down, or shaking. Your body may shake. All these sensations will move through you. Welcome them and open yourself to them. And there's a point to that, is to get back to your going to Paris example. If you've allowed that to happen often enough, what happens when you go to France to to point back to my statement that you expand your ability to sense life. When you go to France, let's say the Eiffel Tower, just so that everybody can relate to a specific space, you go there, you will now experience it differently. I would say it will be even better than the euphoria
Agree. 100%.
because now, yeah, your body is freed up. That space is out and you're more available to the beauty of life, to everything around you. So you will allow the enjoyment to be even better. And
Yeah.
that also works in relationships. So it's all about relationships, right? And the relationship to oneself, know thyself, is crucial because it will dictate your relationship to others and nature.
Mhm.
So if you've allowed yourself to empty your vessel from that pressure and all these emotions that are taking so much from you, if you allow yourself that permission, that freeing, which automatically you have to be kinder and more forgiving to yourself. If you allow that, same thing as in going to the Eiffel Tower, when you are with another being, you will allow more space and more forgiveness, and you're going to be okay with faults and lacks that you thought you would never be okay with.
Yeah.
So it reaches every inch of your beingness, this making space with God,
Yeah.
making space with the divine by being fluent and at peace with what we would consider the imperfection and the bad emotions.
Yeah.
And again, steering away from understanding. That's the beauty. And I can attest to that moving through different experiences where I'm finally able to to live this. I don't think I would have I don't think I know I would not have felt comfortable discussing this if I hadn't gone through an experience more recent in my life that for the first time I activated that ability which I call the love in action, the verb of
Mhm.
loving.
Yeah.
So I was able to do that very consciously. And the beauty of it is, like I said, you have so little whys. So many whys just go away. You get the big picture. It's like whoosh,
Yeah.
it just comes in and it's beyond answers in your head. It's like your entire system is getting it.
Yeah.
And that brings great reassurance, great peace. And then you look out, right? That was looking in, you look out, and it's like the windshield wipers of your car. Like you just did this, and everything is looking better. And therefore, less reactivity, less judgment, less criticism, because you got better at being that. And that is going back to authenticity. That is authenticity.
Yeah.
Nothing else. Authenticity doesn't look like anything specific out there. It's just you.
Yeah. Yeah. I think, one of the things that you said that, man, it made me think about whenever I first started doing some of this work. And for me, it was whenever I first started meditating was that, and I think it was just a byproduct. I think it was kind of like an ancillary benefit that you just mentioned from taking that time, just completely open space was I noticed trees. That was my
Yes.
thing. I just started to notice how
Mm.
beautiful trees are. And it was weird. I remember I told my wife about it. It's like, I didn't notice the beauty and the majesty of trees in a way I never have before.
Yeah.
And I think and it's never been labeled as to me, it was just like, I get and I correlated that I was taking the time to meditate and find calm and do breath work and do these things for some of the reasons we're talking about. But what you just said confirms that that's why. So, and yes, whenever we travel now and Jimlin and I see something beautiful or whatever, there is a much more visceral reaction to it. It's more emotional because and I never had a reason behind that. It was just kind of like a maybe I'm getting
Yeah.
older and I just appreciate things more.
Mm.
But I think what you're saying makes so much sense is because now there's room for those emotions. I'm not scared to allow myself to feel that emotion. And so therefore, and it can be the smallest thing. I think my wife is much better at this than I am. Not that it's a contest, but she lives in her feelings, and I don't mean that in a neurotic way. She just feels much deeper than I do. She's a very, just open, wonderful, glorious human being, yeah, and that
I would disagree with that.
oh, okay.
See, I hear that a lot. I've heard that even that about myself, and I never agreed with that. Like, I don't I think you
So
can
did I.
feel just as deeply and as the man that you are.
Yeah.
I so let me just, let me just
Alright.
put that.
I'll take that.
Yes.
I'll
Yeah.
receive that.
And
Well,
I think we might have again, it's appreciating those differences, right? As a woman, in a way, your biology is designed not in a way, it is designed to be pregnant and
right,
to allow creation to happen. Like, you
right.
don't w you have a baby, but God is your partner for sure in that creation, and we sit there and we feel the creation of this being in your body, like, and you participate in it, but you don't feel like you're doing, right? You're just sitting there and the body is doing all that, and you are with that. I think it's partly perhaps why there's a design there where we could be more receptive, right? What they call the female, not about gender, but the energy, the female energy. But the fact that you are not created to give birth and all the other stuff uh, we won't get into, that as a man, you are created perhaps for a different purpose,
Uh,
physically, a certain purpose, but that doesn't take away the fact that you are a human being that is a co creation with the divine, and that the divine is in every cell of your body as well, and that you're not just as proficient at sensing feelings and emoting.
yeah.
That doesn't mean anything. It's just a different expression of it. But you're just as filled with the divine and are the divine as a female counterpart. It just looks different.
You know what? You just blew my mind. I mean, that's no, seriously. I mean, and I agree with everything you said, but you just said something that I think was more like boom, like mind-boggling that relates to what we're talking about here. You don't see a woman say, "Wait a minute, stop, folks. Don't forget I'm pregnant. I'm making a baby. So here, I gotta go work hard to make this baby real quick." She doesn't. She's just being. And then out of
Yeah.
that, the body creates
Yeah.
this miracle of life. And I think that's an incredible metaphor for everything we're talking about right here, that it's not that some of the greatest things are not about what we do, acting, performing, like what we've talked about, the goal setting and achieving. Nothing wrong with it. It's part of life. But if you can get to a place of just existing and letting your body truly maximize its ability based on the way it was designed all the way down to a cellular level, then and you can tap into that, then that's when you're going to get the most benefit, because then you're not getting in the way of it. You're not getting in the way with all this crap that, again, the matrix, the world, whatever you want to call it, hoists on you and tells you to worry about, tells you to be anxious for, tells you to be fearful of. You're not caught up in that. Instead, what you're saying is, let me know let me be with who I am and exist in the highest state based on who I truly am, and be able to acknowledge the good, the bad, and face it. And from that, the best outcome will yield. And I mean, did I say anything that you disagree with there?
No, I mean, I never disagreed with anything. We're just looking at different levels of perception and of beingness. And yeah, I would say that even the need to say, and I'm not, I'm not saying goal and reaching your goal and performance is like even that black and white statement, right? The
Yeah.
fact that we have to excuse one state over another, as opposed to the merging of the two. The
Mhm.
same way that I would say mind body connection. No, it's not a connection. It it is it's all what you are. The same way that fish is in the water, like all of it just is. So it's the appreciation of it all, and those discordant moments are really there to make you appreciate that which feels better. Like in a
Mhm.
state of what we call love, but not love. I'm not talking about just being in love with someone, but the state of love is an open state. It's a coherent, open, expansive state, which then makes you better at everything and enjoying the fact that you're better. There's
Yeah.
no right.
Yeah.
It's eliminating these walls without putting down the human.
I think that's the key there. I think that's what I'm getting from what you're saying. Like you keep going back to people talk so much about the mind body connection. The mind, well, they're always connected. There's just stuff we put in the way. Is that right?
Well, there's the what we call the adaptation and
Yeah.
the trauma, the childhood traumas, and the neighborhood and the school you go to and your environment, right? And
Mhm.
but it's accepting that if it's if it was there, we called it trauma, but if it was part of the creation, it was part of the water. That's what I was
Mhm.
trying to express. It is
Yeah.
all part of the water. And
Yeah.
just allowing that to be okay, that it's all part of the water, doesn't make if you were abused as a child, we're not saying it's good, let it go. But we are saying it is, you can let it go, meaning you can see what happened to you, you can allow it, you can feel it, and then that experience is integrated in the water and it's information. It's just
Yeah.
more information that now you know, oh, that is that state, that reaction, what happened was constricting.
Mhm.
I can see, oh yeah, I can see in all these events because now you are who you are. You're an adult and you've grown up and you can look at it, not analyzing it and dismissing, but allowing, being curious about it, sensing it, and seeing, oh, I learned this. Now I know what I want. That feels good. That doesn't feel good. Allowing that trauma, that experience to now shape who you are in a way that's much more expansive. And in my small way at the center, I'm just a person that loves sitting with you and allowing you to be witnessed and to be okay with whatever state you are in. And the energy work, by the way, is the same thing. Energy work was like yoga back in the days. Yoga was this weird thing and now it's everywhere. But look, now it's becoming you need your Lululemon pants and your bra top to go do yoga, right? It's becoming yoga is to get your butt tighter. But
Right.
yoga really was expressed and was created from a state of deep connection with that energy that I discussed with you earlier. And that energy brought poses and physical situations that and breath that expanded your awareness. That's yoga one with, right?
Right.
So this is the distortion, right? Does it mean that you don't get nice toned glutes? No, that's not, we're not saying that. Does it mean that the nice toned glutes are not great? No, we're not saying that. That's part of the human experience. That's fantastic. But we're saying the goal was not that.
Right.
It's just an outcome. Everything from that expensive state, the outcome will always be delicious and exactly what you'd want,
Yeah.
better than you may have dreamed it. So, so all of it is about making peace with. Therefore, you're at peace with being home and not being in Paris. Does it
Right.
mean that if you travel to Paris, you're not going to have a wonderful day? No, it's going to be even better.
Yeah. I think that I love that. That's beautiful. Now, what are some of the most common um, people that you're working with? Is it you mentioned people that have gone through childhood abuse? I could imagine people that have their marriages falling apart,
Yeah.
or they like, and how does the process begin? But and like, I gotta believe it takes a special kind of person to even enter into something like this, because people are so skeptical, or they just, and people are so quick to want to go to the traditional routes of, especially in this day and age, unfortunately, of diagnose and prescribe. They'd rather just give me a medication, as opposed to tapping into what we already have to
Mm.
heal. But what's some of the process? Like, if I came to you and I said, hey, Isabel, I've got childhood trauma. This is what it looks like. Maybe they describe it. Maybe they don't. Maybe they just leave it at that and say, I've just been through some stuff. I can't get over it. I got to believe one of the reasons why they're coming to you is because, again, you're right, it's water, and they're trying to connect dots. They're trying to figure out, they're trying to connect the dots of, why did this happen? What was my role in it? Why was my dad so mean? Why did my mom hate me? Instead of just being able to go, this was just, as you say, this was just water. This was just part of my of my journey through. When they come to you, how do you start to unpack that? And is there is it, how long is the process? Does it ever, I don't want to say end, but I mean, like, as far as the formal work that they might do with you, kind of what does it look like?
Again, I'm not a therapist, right?
Right.
So it looks like everything and everything you can possibly think of. I get it all. I get the person that is emotionally wounded and aware of it and wanting to discuss it through the modality of healing and the harmonic eggs, meaning they know that they want to sit down and talk to make sure that they get what they perceive they need. But often I will I will get people. So on my site, right, there's the healing sessions and the harmonic egg. I don't say we're going to sit down and talk and feel. I don't write that down. That has been part of everything I did from the moment that I started training people. The allowing and talking was always part of what I did, not because I'm special or great. It just was. It was just part, just like someone is innately gifted at drawings. It was something that I always enjoyed. So it carried on and it followed me to that. So they don't come expecting we're going to sit down and talk. Absolutely not. And that's not the main aspect of the work. They come because they want healing, energy work, or the harmonic egg. But I always invite them to sit down and connect with me, especially if I'm going to do healing work. And I don't feel like it's just a matter of speech, but I'm really just a conduit
Hmm.
from your healing
Fair.
field to the field. And I'm just the conduit. And really, my hope is that by allowing yourself to sense the energy work at play, that eventually will connect you to that energy work, that you can harness it on your own and use it, right? The goal is to open up. Is It's like the 1 mile record, right? It's one runs and breaks that obstacle that we thought we had, and everybody else can now do it. It's the same principle. I'm just a conduit. I am not special. I didn't study that. It hit me once I gave birth. It just happened because I was in a state of surrender. It was I had a challenge. It put me in a space of deep fear and surrender of I can't walk. It's been years. Help me. And then it happened. It was a surrender of I can do it. I can fix it. It's the surrender. It's all about that. So I'm just surrendering to the fields and I'm just a conduit. I'm just showing you what happened so that you can perceive it and then allowing it with yourself. And
Okay.
so they come with that or the harmonic egg, which is just simple, just sound and light. You would think it does nothing, but you have a sensation, something happens, and you're like, I might I might not get it here, but I'm definitely sensing something is happening. And again, it puts you in a sense of calm, of parasympathetic nervous system, of opening, of expansion of love. So when people come, I'll have it all. I'll have people that will not want to talk at all, barely look at me, and just go straight to the egg. But eventually, the egg will open them up. They're hatched, and
Mm,
then they come out one day and they sit down with me, and then we start feeling and a conversation or a witnessing of each other. So I'm terrible at I've got 5 pillars. This is the way. I'm
yeah, yeah,
actually the exact opposite of that.
yeah.
I will take you as you come, and I'll even have, men tend to do that a lot. They'll come and say, I heard about the egg," or "My wife told me I should come, and I just wanna I'll just give it a shot." And they come out and they'll say something like, "It's so funny, Isabel. I was thinking of getting a surgery in my shoulder, and it's been hurting for a year or so. Um, Suddenly, as I was sitting there, 0 degree, um, I feel I felt tingling and heat and all sorts of sensation, and it went down my wrist, down my hands, and you know what? Feeling better.
Mm,
And that's the beginning of the right brain, right? It's the beginning of like, oh, I didn't do anything. I didn't figure it out. I opened up to the power that be, and here it is. I had an experience. Having an experience is where it's at.
yeah.
That's what it's about. So that individual over time may sit down with me, and then we may go deeper into the field of sensation and of beingness together in conversation. Um, or I have people that come and I can see it, I can feel it, a deep state of anxiety. There's so much anxiety nowadays. I get a lot of that where they can't really pinpoint it, but they're just anxious and they worry about the state of affair of the world. Or it's just at home, it's just not quite right. It doesn't feel, I don't I just don't feel like we're loving toward each other. I don't know where to begin. Again, I'm not a therapist. I'm
Mhm,
not there to fix you, but you can make that statement and I can say, when you say that, where do you feel it?
mhm.
And then put your hand on it and breathe into it. And then she or he may start crying or holding it back, but the sensations are there. And then we're like, why are you holding it back? If not here, when? This is the place, right? And so that I don't have one way, there's not one scenario. I have it all. And that opens me up, right? Every time I can recognize myself in them, and every time I see that you are a master. Like
Mm.
we're all great. It really is true. And we are all one. So that statement, these intellectual statements are embodied. They're real. I'm witnessing it. I'm feeling it. I'm moving through it. They're moving through it. And I think the need of another human being okay with you and just allowing you to feel gives you permission. If you haven't felt the permission, and then it's a cascade of beautiful unfolding of back to your authenticity. Yeah.
Wow. All right. So one of the things I've got to ask is, and I feel so ignorant, I probably should have researched this before we got on
It
the
doesn't matter.
the harmonic egg. How is it designed? What is this thing? What's the history of it? How did you discover it? What does it look like? I mean, kind of tell me a little bit about that.
Yes. The harmonic egg was created by Gail. Her last name eludes me for some reason. And she created this, again, it's like an egg. It
Mhm.
has like sacred geometry design within the egg
Yep.
with facets. And those facets move light and sound 365 degrees through and through your system, your beingness, your body. Um, and it's a very simple radio system, high quality radio system. So it's
Okay.
just sounds, it's just songs that are created for that very purpose. And we have of songs where you can stay as general as, anxiety, but you can go into very specific setting as broken bones, um, you know, um, kidney problem, challenges. You can go very specific, like very specific.
Wow.
And then through a conversation, so the first 3 sessions usually, is about, again, allowing the person to just be more receptive.
Mhm,
Once you're receptive, then you go more pointy. We can sit down and say, "Hey, I really wanna work on this specific health aspect." And really, it's an ability to calm, like, it's like a deep, deep meditation. It brings you to that deep space even though you've never meditated in your life, which is very useful for many of us. The light and sound is utilized throughout the world already. It's just becoming more present now, but they have it in New York for broken bones. It's used in Russia. It's a new modality that is expanding and becoming more and more present, like I said, and it works. Just like I said, the sky and the light outside in your environment will affect you if you stay indoor and get no sunlight. We all know how much we are affected by the lack of. So it's just harnessing the power of nature, of
mhm,
specific sounds being more healing and soothing. And these musicians are designing the music specifically for that.
mhm.
So it will bring you to a great state of calmness where everything gets better from that point on.
Wow. Well, it makes so much sense. I mean, it's one of the things that, we're taught that if you wanna change your state, music is a powerful way to do that. Now that's, I mean,
Yes.
at a
We
very
all know that, right? Mozart.
yeah.
If you
It's
go to, what's it called when the mash pit and it's
yeah,
going like, what's it
right.
called? Punk or whatever.
Punk rock, heavy metal, or any of that.
Yeah, all these, it affects you in a very specific
Sure.
way as opposed to harp will be
Right,
a whole different ball game.
right.
Correct. Yeah.
But
There's
and
nothing crazy about it when you really pause and think
yeah.
about it.
Well, and it's just one of those things that's kinda crazy about a lot of things we're discovering now with, again, like you and I are talking about, why do I feel like I'm in such a good mood after I exercise or when I exercise? People just kinda like, "Oh, I don't know, I just feel better." No, there's a reason why, and I think that that makes total sense what you just told me because, like, one of the things that I do now is I use a lot of infrared, and I do, red
Oh,
light,
yes.
and so I will take, my I'll put my, infrared mask on, and then I will listen to, different meditative music, sound, or whatever, and the difference with the sound and the heat and everything, you combine all those, and now this is just me haphazardly, not even putting any thought into it, and realizing what you're saying is like, "Oh, well, no wonder it puts me in, like, just almost just a calm, euphoric state." Like I
Yeah.
told my wife the other day, had my mask on for 10 minutes and I dozed off or just checked out. And I told her I came to and I didn't know what day it was, where I was, what room of the house I was in. It was awesome. It was just this
Yeah.
relaxation. And so that
Deeply restorative, right?
yeah, for sure, for sure. It just silences all the other noise and it strategically uses the other sensory mechanisms, I guess, for a healing purpose. And that's what I
Yeah.
take from the harmonic egg. Okay, that makes
Yeah.
a lot of sense.
Yeah. Yeah, it all does. It's quite rational when you think about it.
Exactly.
So when I hear that it's woo woo that I'm doing sound and light, it's so not.
Right.
It's part of the design of the entire planet and who we are.
Mhm. Well, I think that's a good thing. We're in a good place now where conversations like this are
Yes.
more commonplace, and I think that's a good
Yes.
thing. That's one of the things that I've said about, I say this all the time on the podcast right now. It's like, you know, I don't care what you think about Robert F. Kennedy Jr. I don't care. At least we're having conversations about things that we
Yes.
haven't talked about before, be it what the contents of our food and rest and my
Yes.
behavioral health. Let's have these conversations and it makes all the difference and also what I love about your message that we've heard today is that we have, and again I'm going to say it because we're in full agreement, just due to our divine nature, who we are and how we were designed, we have so much more agency and power to heal ourselves
Yes.
than
Yes.
we give ourselves credit for, right?
Yeah. Yes, you don't have to be perfect, you don't have to be a master, and you don't have to look like a god,
Right,
whatever perception of what God is supposed to look like,
right,
a goddess, I should say, right?
right.
You don't. It's absolutely okay. Everything is good. You can really be exactly what you are in that moment, and the allowing of that brings you to a state where you make better choices, you respond better to your life, you're better to your partner because you're better with yourself and you're better with your environment, and you also appreciate your environment better. Everything gets better from that expanded, relaxed state, and that's the goal.
Well, Isabelle, this has been a fantastic conversation. I hope this is not the last
Thank
time
you.
you come on the show. I mean, this is I told you it would fly by. I mean, look at we're almost at an hour and a half, and it feels like we
Yeah.
just started.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. I'm not very good at short babble.
No,
I
I'm
It's
the
not
same
my
way.
forte.
Well, these topics, I mean, like a topic like this, it's too important and meaningful, and I think
Yeah.
hopefully beneficial to this audience. Hopefully, we prompted them to think about some things that, yeah, just a short little snippet wouldn't have done this justice. So, how do
Yeah.
people keep up with you and your work and get involved with what you're doing?
So it's very simple. It's called authenticitystressless.com, and it's the same on Facebook and on Instagram. A very, very light presence on those platforms, but you can reach me there and you can see a little bit of it. Especially my website. Then there's the videos. You can see the whole space. I created a beautiful space where it's on a mountain. You're surrounded by nature. There's nobody around. It's really meant to allow yourself to be you can shop in your pajamas, nobody's gonna see you. It's there's no EMF because we haven't touched on that, but one of the reason why I chose the egg, it's because there's no EMF, there's no Wi-Fi, there's no Bluetooth. My space doesn't have any access to it either, so it's really allowing your body, your system to also chill and have a break from that as well. So yeah, authenticitystressless.com.
Well, maybe my wife and I'll have to come out there and see you. I think that'd be good. Y'all are on the
I'd
West Coast.
love to meet you guys.
Yeah, we'll try to figure that out. Well, Isabelle, it has been an absolute honor and a pleasure. And hey, look, I didn't talk about Beachbody the whole time. You know, as much
I
of a
know, we could have. I hope you didn't feel like we couldn't.
no, as much of a fanboy as I am, this was so much more informational. It was so fun, and I really do. I'm honored by you coming on the show. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much for having me. This was great. I really appreciate you.
Wonderful. Okay. Well, that does it for this episode of The Jason Wright Show. Thank you so much for listening. This has been a Texas Titan Media production. Fourth Wall did the music. And as always, thank you so much for listening. Please consider going out to jasonwrightnow.com and signing up for the Vitruvian Letter. Also, please go out to iTunes. It takes like 30 seconds to just leave us a 5-star rating. It does wonders for the podcast. I would be so grateful. And with that, until we meet again, go crush it and endeavor to improve always in all ways. I'm out.